What is up, everyone? What is up? Happy Wednesday. Sorry I was a little bit late. I was running into tech issues. It's not a tech stream without tech issues, I guess. Yeah, I was trying out the new OBS 32. It was pegging my CPU at like 100%, and I have a 5700X. I mean, it's not the highest end thing, but I was like, that ain't right. So I had to update the GPU drivers and then try all that. Eventually just rolled back to the prior version of OBS, which that's on me. Don't try new softwares before you play the test them out. And yeah, I was giving 100% pegged even before it started. There should be a completion bar in stream loading. The problem is you don't see a completion bar when you're actually loading a stream in when you're loading your computer in Linux. That's basically just a Linux boot. That was literally a screen capture I had of Pop! OS booting in a virtual machine that I gave to a friend to actually do that video, and then she made it all pretty and everything. But yeah, 'tis Wednesday. Sorry I wasn't on Monday. I had Rosh Hashanah to celebrate with family, and then of course yesterday I said I may get on stream, but the issue was I was just so wiped out and tired from the past, with work and everything. I was like, I took a nap right after synagogue and I just didn't feel like it. You have those days. But what's everyone up to? We have a few things that I know my mods and a few other people wanted me to check out in terms of videos, and we'll get to that as well. Let me see. I did cover that one. Oh, I need to put my encryption key back in, I guess, for my backups to work again. Hooray! But yeah, it's been a long day. I literally came back from the gym, took a shower, then went to start streaming, and then was like, yeah, let's update. New OBS version. Nope. So if anyone's trying the new OBS 32, it's a little bit buggy, but I did update the NVIDIA GPU driver at least. Crap, I can't remember. Did I get the studio driver? Guess I should check that out because I prefer the studio drivers. They're a little bit more stable. I don't need the game ready drivers. I use a 2 PC setup if anyone's curious, and I do have my dinner right here. Chicken and rice. So, apologize if I'm eating. I could swear there is this line. For what? Oh no. Linux doesn't show a loading bar when you're booting. Windows doesn't even do that anymore. I don't think Windows ever really did that. Maybe in the 95, 98 days. What am I eating? Chicken with Berber and a bunch of other spices. What's up, Ghost Laughing Man? But, did anyone happen to catch, the Jimmy Kimmel, return? I know a lot of people couldn't see it live on TV, but I watched it on YouTube. And here's the funny thing. I wouldn't say I've really ever been a fan of Jimmy Kimmel, but I think Trump accidentally caused the Streisand effect kind of thing. Because him wanting to cancel something made a lot of people want to watch it. And I think what they said is like, normally he averages like a few 100,000 views on a YouTube video, just as an example. But I think he's like at something like 20 million views or something, just for that most recent video he had for Monologue. So, cancel your Disney Plus today. Yeah, I've never thought about watching it. I never have. Okay, I've watched a little bit of Conan O'Brien, but more so because he was on Hulu with a few other things. Jay Leno, never really watched him. Like, really, out of all those, talk shows, more or less, I think the closest you could say that I actually watch, The Daily Show, especially when it's Jon Stewart. Yeah, he also wants to go after Fallon and others too. Yeah, and ironically, what Trump doesn't seem to understand is, he's like, the ratings are so bad and all that. Here's the reality. Ratings have been bad for TV all over. Because who here on stream has actually watched TV? Like, when I say TV, I'm not talking streaming. I'm not talking YouTube. I'm talking straight up either over-the-air TV or you actually pay for cable. Because almost everyone I know pays for internet, and then they have streaming apps, and then they get their content through YouTube, or other social media, or other streaming apps. I myself have not watched TV, like proper TV, in my own house in years. If I'm at one of my relatives' TV houses, I may watch TV because they have TV. But yeah, TV, as you said, it's a dying media. You have Plex or Jellyfin guy. I don't have either. I have an XBMC box. Well, it's called Kodi now. It tells you how long I've been using it. Honestly, I just have Roku sticks because they're inexpensive. And then stream content through that. Eventually, I'll probably build something. I just haven't had the need nor desire for it because it's like, if I watch any content, XBMC, I don't have that many TVs or that. Kodi is still kicking? Yeah, Kodi's still kicking. Cable TV has been dwindling for over a decade. Not just cable, like over-the-air TV. Like, how many people have an actual antenna to get TV? I'm probably one of the very few people that is actually thinking of getting an over-the-air antenna installed in my house so I can do that. But then again, I'm the weird guy that's into radio, so do what you will with that. I just got my first InfoSec analyst role and was only offered $20 an hour. Kind of bummed. Yeah, there's a lot of companies that are underpaying for the position. Like, no joke, where I'm at, I did the math. I'm getting like anywhere from 15 to 25% below just the median for my area. And I'm honestly at the point where I'm exploring my options, especially if they don't give me a promotion and actually do raises in line with inflation. Because the problem is, our company's doing this bullshit like, oh, we gave you 2.4% raise, which is in line with, our competitors. And I'm like, inflation was 3% last year. So you've effectively allowed me to have a decrease in buying power of 0.6%. So that's not really a raise. That's more of a, we're giving bullshit. They give me a raise? I don't know, I'll find out. It was an 80-cent raise. Good God. Yeah, there's a lot of companies that don't seem to understand the value in cybersecurity. Like, here, we're gonna bring up today's story, which, if you follow me on Blue Sky and or Mastodon, you probably saw it. How many of you knew Jaguar Land Rover was compromised? They were hit with ransomware, I think, what was it, the end of, August. God damn it. Of course, you use that, and they're like, hey, yeah, you got your, you gotta subscribe to read the article. Didn't have a problem reading the article when I was at work. Let's see. God damn it. Hold on. I know what we can do. Let's see if archive works. Will AI large language model take over, become sentient? No. There's a huge gap in difference between large language models and general AI. Okay, hold on. Does archive.org. God damn it. Well, anyway, I was going to show you an FT article. Jaguar Land Rover was compromised at the end of August, and it's come to light that they apparently may not be able to roll vehicles off the line until around November. And their other issue is that they didn't have cybersecurity insurance, which means they're now on the hook for all the billions, literally billions of dollars they're going to lose, because you got to think about this. And this is why I tell people, you need to stop thinking of cybersecurity as an expense, but an investment. Because as I put to them all the time, okay, you think it's an expense because you're just spending money. But when you do get an incident, and you will have an incident, the worst case is you have to consider that you're still going to have your operational expenses going on. You're still going to have vendors that need to be paid. You're still going to have employees that have to be paid. Benefits, taxes, all that, think about everything you still have to pay day to day. Business, electric, the building, the electric, the water, the gas, every little thing there. You still got to pay for it. And then whatever debts you have, you also still have to pay those off. Well, take that cost per day, and that is your cost of what happens in a cybersecurity incident if you have a single day of downtime, because you still have to spend that money. And in the case of Jaguar Land Rover, excuse me, I got the hiccups. They're, I think, close to a month into this, and they're still not even going to be able to recover for probably another month or two. They still have to pay all those employees. They still have to pay all those other bills. And it would have been a lot cheaper for them, I'm betting right now, to have spun up a proper cybersecurity SOC, NOC, GRC, engineering, architecture, all of that for all these years. And 8. Okay, for a company their size, I'm just going to spitball. Let's say the cost for everything, tooling, everything you needed, cybersecurity, employees, all of that, $30 to $50 million a year. That's still cheaper than what they're going through right now. And they were only just now thinking about cybersecurity insurance that came out, that they were in the middle of discussion still when the attack happened, which means they didn't have cybersecurity insurance. Because a lot of businesses have this false idea that general business insurance, business liability insurance, covers cybersecurity. That's a whole other policy. I was talking to clients when I was in my MSP days about the importance of cybersecurity insurance a decade ago. They are very behind the times. Insurance do anything but pay up. Not really the case when it comes to cybersecurity insurance. As long as you are actually doing a compliance security program, it will actually cover a lot of your costs. It will cover not only potential downtime, it'll cover remediations, PR, and a bunch of other things, provided you are showing that you are actually implementing a competent system. Cybersecurity insurance does help a lot of businesses, because the average small business, about 60% of them close within 6 months of a cyber incident. Think about that. Because a lot of small businesses can't weather that. Jaguar Land Rover may be able to weather this. But they now have lost profits. They still have expenses and everything. So, yeah. It's a big, problem. And a lot of businesses haven't been taking cybersecurity seriously for many years. And there's a lot of companies that are really behind. Let's hope they close their logo, whack. Oh, wait, yeah, didn't they do the BS Jaguar horrible logo? Yeah. Where'd you get the privacy shirt? This one is from the Tor Foundation at DEF CON. I gave them a $60 donation for this t-shirt. You might think that's expensive, but it's a donation to the Tor Foundation. And yes, that means the shirt is tax deductible. Has anyone defrauded using cyber insurance? I'm sure people have tried, but it's one of those harder things to prove. I mean, to actually, you know, defraud someone in cybersecurity, you'd have to hire someone to mess up your network, and it's just not worth the expense. I think AI is taking over, but it takes time. Mistakes can be made. Well, the problem is you're thinking of it as the buzzword of AI, when really it's just machine learning or a large language model. There's a lot of businesses that have made the mistake of leaning too much on LLMs and not enough humans. Now, with that being said, it's requiring employees to be more productive, because now you can do a lot more work with LLMs. Like I know with Amazon Q, it's the difference of me taking a week or two for a Python script or a Terraform, sometimes several months that would, you know, take these Terraforms and breaking it down into a few days. I know I have been a lot more productive with Amazon Q using Claude. Was it Claude Sonnet 3.7 and 4 that we use at work as part of Amazon Q into our AWS environment. Got a number at the largest 3D printing expo in Switzerland where I can call during a cyber attack. PBX we sold at my last job started doing AI receptionist, and it's turning out cumbersome. Yeah, a lot of those systems are... Well, if you think about it, a lot of these automated systems really don't work as well as they think they do. Like, automated attendance, IVR, that's already a lot of work. But then you have to program your LLM to be the receptionist to actually route things properly. And that takes a lot of time and training. And honestly, it ends up being cheaper. Maybe not in terms of monetary cost, but in terms of time, opportunity. The two of the four costs to have a human behind the phone. They should have AI, or let's use the proper term, LLMs and machine learning as an assistive tool, but there's many times it can't replace a human. The point can be made is that, yes, ATMs, automated teller machines, they exist, but you still have human tellers for a lot of things. I went through Amazon Q developer course 2 weeks ago at my job. I'm not a developer at all. Yeah, I'm not really a developer either. I'm a cybersecurity engineer. Nowhere in my job description was coding a requirement. Yet I'm the only one in my team that does Terraform, does Python. I understand the AWS constructs for a lot of different things. And the architect and the rest of the team is leaning on me to build a lot of the automations. I recently got a Nova custom laptop. Comes with Core boot pre-installed, likely connecting it so far. Yeah, I've wanted to get a Nova custom for a minute. I just got enough computers at the moment, but I'll eventually get it for replacing my Cubes OS laptop. They have core boot and heads, which is what I'm looking to do, because my current laptop is basically doing that same thing. But there's a reason why I've been primarily going to Linux first laptops, is because those are the ones that have Intel Management Engine disabled out the box. And unless you are in a business, you don't need Intel Management Engine. The Intel Management Engine makes sense in an enterprise setting for out-of-band management. Like, making sure the computer turns on, and can do all the updates that you need to do, even when the machine's off. I've been hearing a lot about Intel Management Engine lately because of the backdoor. You know what's funny? I've been talking about this shit like almost the entire time I've been on TikTok. Actually, longer than I've been on TikTok. I'm talking about how it's a problem. I've had an Intel Management Engine disabled laptop with Purism and System 76 almost as long as I've been on TikTok. And it's kind of funny to me how y'all are just kind of like picking up to it. And let me put it this way. It's funny to me because I was told I was crazy, I was paranoid. And that's usually par for the course. People accuse me of these things until they're like, okay, you were right, Chief. Like, I remember years ago, I said I wouldn't be surprised if there's a closet inside of one of the ISPs that's actually siphoning all our data for the government. Oh, Chief, you're freaking crazy. NSA comes out. Yeah, we have a closet in AT&T siphoning all your data. If you manufacture CPUs in the USA, you're required to build in backdoors. It's nuts. Not really. A lot of people say that, but that's not really the case. The reason why it's actually done, and as I said, there is a use case for enterprise management. Like I said, out-of-band management. You have a box that's off. You want to make sure you can turn it on remotely, manage the entire thing, and do updates as needed down to the BIOS. At an enterprise level, it makes sense. But as on a personal device level, it doesn't. Do you think they're siphoning your data as we speak? They haven't really stopped. The NSA has an entire data center, I think, in Nevada or something like that. That's literally just built there to collect data to be decrypted later when they can. As you speak about that, I actually have a video and review on stream about phone backdoor. Oh, I will check that out in a sec. What is the benefit of heads? So, the benefit of heads is that, think of it this way. On our computers, we always authenticate ourselves to the computer to prove that we are who we are, so we can log in and have access to the machine. Flip that concept on its head. The computer is now verifying itself to us. So what Heads allows you to do is you can have a PGP cryptographic key, like the Librem key. Actually got a spare one over here I can show y'all. This is a Purism Librem key. It's the same concept though. It's a nitro key basically. You plug this in, similar to a PGP key, and it also uses HOTP. And you plug that in, and it will verify the signature that you have signed to the boot files of Linux, as well as the firmware files of the motherboard to this device. If they match up, light flashes green, you know your device hasn't been tampered with. So that's what Heads offers you. So you can make sure your device hasn't been tampered since you've last used it. So that's what the advantage of Heads. Now, it is, of course, a little bit more advanced of a thing. Not that I recommend everyone go out and do it, but it is interesting to play with. Can you siphon government data? No, the most you can do is a FOIA. Alright. let us check out the, hold on. All right. Hold on. What the hell? One second. I'm downloading all the videos that Red Fang. All right. Okay. So, let's see. Oh. Look, wrong thing. Hold on.
UK's Online Safety Act is expanding again, and this time it's if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on any platform with a live chat feature, you might want to pay attention to what happens next. According to documents from Ofcom, your ability to live stream might soon be gated behind stricter rules, more verification, and even more friction. The government has said that this is to protect children, specifically children who live stream, from grooming, coercion, or abuse that can happen during the live broadcast. And on that point, I agree with them. This is actually one of the less worrying parts of the Online Safety Act, but it's being implemented in the most predictably clumsy, confusing, and inept way possible. But who would have guessed? So here's what Ofcom wants to enforce on children who are live streaming to the public. No comments on their live streams. No gifts, reactions, or digital currency during the stream. No screen recording or clipping, not even using third-party tools, if that can be enforced. And if you haven't been verified as an adult, you won't be able to interact with their live stream at all. Which would surely mean that it's just adults watching the kids' streams. Does that not defeat the point? To make live streams safer for kids, the government wants platforms to restrict or remove entire functionalities unless they know your real verified age. Which means we're about to enter a world where commenting on a stream might require a passport upload. And even if you're not the one doing the live stream, you may still be affected, because platforms will likely start tightening age controls across the board just to stay compliant. Ofcom has openly admitted that they don't know if these measures
Hold on. I think I know what happened. For some reason, it nuked the folder that everything was organized in. Okay, so hold on. Let me group this. Okay, I know what's going on. Hold on. I don't know why all of a sudden this decided to 1 second. I'm fixing it. Wait, why is Mike in here twice? Huh. Yeah, something happened when I fixed my OBS that, okay, let me remove this. Okay, that's still working. Okay, so... Layer, background... What the hell? Yeah, this got really janky. Hold on, we're gonna have to go through all of my scenes in a second. Alright, let's see. Sorry about this, guys. Everything was working before, it got messed up. Hold on, I'm just gonna go through each one. Audio. Sorry about that. I'm just going through and I'm checking the scenes. Okay. That's weird. Why that happened, I do not know. Huh. Okay. I didn't mute my output. What happened was I had some issues before starting on stream, and I had to reinstall OBS because I tried OBS 32 and it was pegging my CPU at 100%, and then yeah, so move that over there. Wait, hold on. Wait, can you still not hear me? Okay, can you hear me now? What is OBS? Open Broadcaster Studio. It's how I actually do my, content for streaming. Huh. I'm curious now. Oh shit. It's... That is really weird. Huh. Okay. Twitch could hear everything I don't know about TikTok. Well, yeah. TikTok goes oof. Okay. Alright, let's try that again. Bottom right. Alright, chat. Let me know if you can still hear my audio. Alright, so let's try this again.
The UK's Online Safety Act is expanding again, and this time it's coming for live streaming. So, if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on any platform...
Why is that clipping so hard?
...with a live chat feature, you might want to pay attention to what happens next.
Yeah, the video just went to crap. Hold on. I'm curious if... Is it just... I'm curious, is it the video? Or is it the actual, like, audio output from my machine? Just give me 1 second. Okay, it's the video. So, hold on. Video. There we go. I don't know, for some reason it just now works better. Okay.
The UK's Online Safety Act is expanding again, and this time it's coming for live streaming. So, if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on any platform with a live chat feature, you might want to pay attention to what happens next. According to documents from Ofcom, your ability to live stream
I
might
literally
soon be
just
gated
reopened
by
it, but
strict
yeah.
rules, more verification, and even more friction. The government has said that this is to protect children, specifically children who live stream, from grooming, coercion, or abuse that can happen during a live broadcast. And on that point, I agree with them.
I feel like the people in the UK running the government have no idea how the internet or technology works.
Confusing and inept way possible, but who would have guessed? So here's what Ofcom wants to enforce on children who are live streaming to the public. No
the Librem 5 isn't that great.
No gifts, reactions, or digital currency
We'll talk in a
during the
second.
stream. No screen recording or clipping, not even using third-party tools, if that can be enforced. And if you haven't been verified as an adult, you won't be able to interact with their live stream at all. Which would
Is
surely
the audio
mean
still clipping
that
for
it's
you
just
guys?
adults watching the kids' streams. Does that not defeat the point? To make live streams safer for kids, the government wants platforms to restrict or remove entire functionalities unless they know your real verified age. Which means we're about to enter a world where commenting on a stream might require a passport upload. And even if you're not the one doing the live stream, you may still be affected.
That's interesting.
Because platforms will likely start
Because the audio's not clipping on my end. Let me see. Hold on. That'll teach me for, you know, trying to update things. Okay, so 1 second. Let me go to my phone and see what it sounds like. Okay, let's see. Okay, that is a weird echo. 1 sec, I'm gonna mute myself to test this out.
just to stay compliant. Ofcom is...
Okay, I see what you're talking about. Okay. Expected that.
UK's Online Safety Act.
Okay. Let's try that again.
Expanding again, and this time it's coming for live streaming. So, if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on any platform with a live chat feature, you might...
That seems to work. Does that audio seem a little bit better? I'm not using Pulse, I'm using Pipewire. I just reset it. I have this little script here I wrote like many months ago to restart Pipewire, create a combined sync to put it out. Alright. Let's see how this goes.
The UK's Online Safety Act is expanding again, and this time it's coming for live streaming. So, if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on any platform with a live chat feature, you might want to pay attention to what happens next. According to documents from Ofcom, your ability to live stream might soon be gated behind stricter rules, more verification, and even more friction. The government has said that this is to protect children, specifically children who live stream, from grooming, coercion, or abuse that can happen during live broadcast. And on that point, I agree with them. This is actually one of the less worrying parts of the Online Safety Act, but it's being implemented in the most predictably clumsy, confusing, and inept way possible. But who would have guessed? So here's what Ofcom wants to enforce on children who are live streaming to the public. No comments on their live streams. No gifts, reactions, or digital...
Reinstalling isn't gonna fix shit. So, hold on. I'll try a quick reboot on this machine. The advantage of a 2-PC setup, I can do that. There's nothing to reinstall. That's the audio going out to the capture card. So bear with me. It's booting up. Do. All right. Now let's try this. Let me relaunch my chat. Alright, hold on. I still can't see chat. Give me a second. Hold on. Had to relaunch something. Alright, It's not a tech stream without tech issues. There we go. Alright, let's relaunch that. Okay, got the YouTube, got the Twitch. And then, do we have the TikToks? Okay, there we go. Now, let's reset the audio. Okay. There we go. Okay, now we're pulling in chats, all that. Okay. Sorry about this. Let's see if... Alright. There we go. Alright, let's try this again.
For live streaming. So, if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on any platform with a live chat feature, you might want to pay attention to what happens next. According to documents from Ofcom, your ability to live stream might soon be gated behind stricter rules, more verification, and even more friction. The government has said that this is to protect children, specifically children who live stream, from grooming, coercion, or abuse that can happen during live broadcast. And on that point, I agree with them.
What the hell? It's still clipping. Alright, I'm gonna just pull up a random YouTube video of mine. We'll see if that still does it. Come on, YouTube. You can do it! I don't know why YouTube is going derp. There we go. Outside, it probably looked like I was going to end up running a computer repair business. I loved building PCs. I did liquid cooling back when you had to Frankenstein it together with pond pumps, aquarium tubing, and even automotive parts. For some reason, it might be the actual video I was trying to play. Huh. That's weird. Alright, let's try a different video, see if it still clips.
Nintendo!
Oh, it's VLC. That is VLC. Huh.
The UK's online safety act.
Okay, let's see if that works. 1 second.
Expanding again, and this time it's coming for live streaming. So, if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on...
No, for some reason, it's just whatever audio player is there. Interesting. That's weird. Huh. Doom on Excel. Yeah, I've seen that. I'm back up, but for some reason I can't play videos on the actual machine, which is weird. What's up, only if it cans? You running the video's URL link through VLC? No, I downloaded it locally. That's the interesting part about it. Oh. Did I flat pack VLC? Flat pack, remove. Let's check this. Flatpak uninstall org.videolan. Yeah, so it was flat packed. So I'm gonna try just running VLC locally through apt. How long before we see Doom 2016 running on everything? I give it 5 years for toasters. Well, that's interesting. Apparently I had an install that was uninterrupted on apt. That's weird. My workstation failed after Valorant installation. Is start help enough to get it run? Well, your first mistake was installing Valorant. You probably have issues with the kernel level anti-cheat they installed. I'm not even making that up. Alright, let's give this a second to install VLC locally. So now I'm curious if I go to download. Okay. Let's try this again and see if the performance works well. Alright, I'm gonna mute my mic while I try this again.
So, if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on any platform with a live chat feature, you might want to pay attention to what happens next. According to documents...
Nope. But I did have some updates that needed to be applied. So we'll try that. And then give it another reboot. And sudo apt upgrade -y. I wonder why an update just broke in the middle of it. That's weird. Okay, so there was something that did need to sudo apt auto remove. We'll clean those out at least, and then restart the box again. It's interesting, because I didn't have issues up until today. And if you play YouTube, it works just fine. I don't know. That's weird. Work with CAN buses for vehicles? Oh, you're asking them. I was going to experiment on my Honda HR-V before I got rid of it. I've played with CAN bus a little bit. But yeah, it's... Today is just not my day as I see it. Now, I did see that I had a Linux kernel update that apparently got interrupted before I actually I don't know how it got interrupted. That's the weirdest thing. Because I didn't shut down in the middle of an update. At least that I'm aware of. But I fixed the D package. Alright, let's try this again one more time. I don't know why that's failing. Whatever, come on. Well, that's whatever. Alright, let's see if we can get this going over here. Bring up the TikToks. Okay, got the audio back. Got the chat back on. Okay, it sounds smooth over here. Now, let's close this out. And let's bring up the video again. Okay, we're gonna try this one more time. If this doesn't work, we're gonna just go straight to the YouTubes. But 1 second, let me bring up my test stream over here. It's not a tech stream without tech issues.
Expanding again, and this time it's coming for live streaming. So if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on any platform with a live chat feature, you might want to pay attention to what happens next. According to documents from Ofcom, your ability to live stream might soon be gated behind stricter rules, more verification.
That is the strangest thing. Why it's not working. So I just store Windows before the installation, or do I need to do more? Just uninstall Valorant. That's your fix. Seriously, y'all need to start learning that kernel level anti-cheat I keep saying is horrible for multiple reasons, and that is one of them. Okay, so I'm curious now. Is it maybe just a VLC doesn't like that? So, I wonder if we bring this over. Let me find the video I wanted to pull up. Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay. I wonder if it's just VLC doesn't like the local audio system for some reason when it's broadcast over multiple devices. So let's see this one more test.
Gax is expanding again, and this time it's coming for live streaming. So if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on any platform with a live chat feature, you might want to pay attention to what happens next. According to documents from Ofcom, your ability to live stream might soon be gated behind stricter rules, more verification.
Okay, it's working fine, isn't it?
The government has said that this is to protect children, specifically children who live stream from grooming, coercion, or abuse that can happen during
For some reason, it's the local audio player.
I agree with them. This is actually one of the less worrying parts of the online sector.
That is the strangest thing. So it wasn't the machine, it was the app. Because you see, I'm playing the same video that I literally downloaded and played. And the weird thing was, it would sound good to me, but sound messed up to you. And I confirmed that when I was... Well, it's not a tech stream without tech issues. Am I right? All right. let's actually watch this video now.
The UK's Online Safety Act is expanding again, and this time it's coming for live streaming. So, if you use Twitch or YouTube or TikTok, or you make content on any platform with a live chat feature, you might want to pay attention to what happens next. According to documents from Ofcom, your ability to live stream might soon be gated behind stricter rules, more verification, and even more friction. The government has said that this is to protect children, specifically children who live stream, from grooming, coercion, or abuse that can happen during live broadcast. And on that point, I agree with them. This is actually one of the less worrying parts of the Online Safety Act, but it's being implemented in the most predictably clumsy, confusing...
I think the UK Online Safety Act is an example of the solution being worse than the problem.
Live streaming to the public. No comments on their live streams. No gifts, reactions, or digital currency during the stream. No screen recording or clipping, not even using third-party tools, if that can be enforced. And if you haven't been verified as an adult, you won't be able to interact with their live stream at all. Which would surely mean that it's just adults watching the kids' streams. Does that not defeat the point? To make live streams safer for kids, the government wants platforms to restrict or remove entire functionalities unless they know your real verified age. Which means we're about to enter a world where commenting on a stream might
realize
require
that this path for streamers could end for a lot of the younger kids, because I know that's how a lot of them start.
Because platforms will likely start tightening age controls across
what has
the board.
He got? iShow Speed and a few others that started as teens.
That they don't know if these measures will work. They admit that live stream moderation is technically difficult, resource intensive.
Hold up, what did he say?
They don't know if these measures will work.
So they don't know the measures will work, but they're trying to do it.
Difficult, resource intensive, and impossible to scale. They also admit that there is no current system that properly moderates live streams in real time. So the best solution that they've come up with is don't let anyone talk. Now yes, I understand the intention that this is about stopping live grooming, harassment, and abuse. And I also get that platforms like TikTok have serious problems with children live streaming to strangers for coins. But the UK government is once again doing what it does best: build a nuclear submarine when what we needed was a lifeboat.
Yep.
Instead of requiring better moderation or incentivizing smarter age design, we're just going to nuke entire functionalities for everyone under 18 and assume that platforms can verify everyone else perfectly in real time. And spoiler alert, they can't. If you want to make content, you're going to have to prove who you are, and it's going to be happening without a wider debate on what this means for privacy, access, and the future of anonymity online.
Yep. Vampire, or Red Fang in the Discord, shared that video. PeerTube is looking more and more better. This is the one problem that I will say, like, because, you know, PeerTube, don't get me wrong, I'm not at all opposed to PeerTube, Skylight as an alternative, like PeerTube instead of Twitch or TikTok, Twitch or YouTube. Then you have like Skylight, which is on Blue Sky, which is an alternative to TikTok, which I hear a lot of people are considering going to instead of, you know, TikTok when they release this new app for the US-based one. Just thinking of a few more examples. Owncast versus Twitch or Kick. You have, there's a few other, you know, comparisons. The issue, and I keep having to tell people this, is a lot of creators, to a lesser extent me, we make money off of content. So the problem is, a lot of these creators have made a business around it, and there's no real way to monetize Skylight, Owncast, PeerTube, and a lot of these other platforms. And that's always going to be something that's going to impede quite a few creators from being there. Now, don't get me wrong, YouTube back in the day did this as a hobby and everything, but there is a whole creator economy now. So you can go around saying, well, I'm not going to use TikTok anymore, I'm going to go to Skylight. Well, you know, YouTube is getting, you know, a bit worse, so I'm going to use PeerTube. But the problem is, how do those creators make money compared to, say, you know, YouTube, Twitch, all that, where you actually can get paid off the ad revenue? You can get paid off of, you know, all that. I know you can get people to donate and everything, but ultimately that's not a realistic model for a lot of creators. That's the unfortunate reality that you have to I have to tell people is, you know, like, I don't make that much money off of TikTok. I make enough to, you know, power some of my home lab things, and, you know, I get subs over on Twitch. I get, donations through Stream Elements here and there. Need crypto micropayments in those new ones. Not really. The problem with, even cryptocurrency is that a lot of people don't use it, really. They invest in it, which is a really dumb thing. As somebody that actually was in cryptocurrency for many years, they don't actually use it. I'm one of the few people that actually use it. Do you ever get gifts on TikTok? Yeah, I get gifts all the time. Which I'm very appreciative of, that people, donate to me, because the home labbing, the tinkering, the education I do, it's not cheap. This is by no means a cheap hobby. And I like to share my education with all of you, and the money that I make off of this content goes right back into all the content I make. I don't pay myself anything for my content. I don't really make much more than maybe the equivalent of 1 week's of groceries, or 2 weeks at most. That's the honest truth. But it does offset the expenses that I do myself. So that is the honest truth, is a lot of people on the consumer side are like, I'll just go to this platform, I'll go to that platform. But ultimately, you as a consumer are not really going to enjoy any platform if the creators you want to see are not there. That's why a lot of people stay on the platforms that they have. Even Meta's realized they need to pay creators, which is why Instagram and to a lesser extent Threads apparently have their monetization programs, but they're very broken. I'm not going to lie, they are very broken. Now, creators may complain about TikTok. TikTok has some additional revenue programs and things like that. Like, I can review products and, get affiliate money off of that. Or, I can partner with different platforms, to make a few bucks here and there. But ultimately, the creating content costs money, and most creators are hoping to get that money back. TikTok is one of the few ones where you make money on, you can just pull up a phone and possibly make money just off of your phone. But at a certain point, you have to invest in upgrading the quality of the content that you're making on TikTok, and eventually people want to expand into either live streaming on Kick, Twitch, YouTube, or making long-form content on YouTube. That's the honest reality, and why I keep telling people, like, you can use Instagram, PixelFed, Mastodon, Blue Sky, which also has Skylight, as I mentioned, for the video side of it, to help promote your other content. But people are ultimately using those platforms to build reach to other things. Because let's look at Twitch, for example. I'm not shy about the fact that the only reason I have a following of any size that I have is because I have a following elsewhere. Every Twitch streamer will tell you the only way you grow a following on Twitch is you grow a following elsewhere. That's the honest reality of it. What one common security mistake that some companies make? Not training employees. The humans are always the biggest vulnerability when it comes to security. I don't care what you say, how much money you see people throw at it. It's always the humans that are the biggest problem. And they will always be the weakest link. You hear about Homeland Security communities sending letters to the executives of Discord, GitHub, Reddit on how they monitor extremist content. I don't think it was GitHub. I think it was Reddit. I know it was Discord, Reddit, Twitch, and I think there was a fourth platform. But it wasn't GitHub that I can remember, because GitHub, I mean... Yeah, but I did hear about that. And to be honest, I'm gonna say it, Twitch does have a problem with not enforcing their rules equally. There are a few creators on here, so you can do a little bit of searching on all the Twitch drama that's happened in the past few months, and you can see very easily what I'm talking about. There are people that have more or less endorsed political violence of various different degrees. and they have not been punished for it. In fact, it seems like Twitch is actually protecting some of them. I'm just being honest. And I'm saying that as someone that, look, you can go look through all of my content, all of my streams, and see, I'm not hard on any single political spectrum. And I even see it as, that's a little wrong. I'm able to use Linux to turn my old PC into some sort of gaming console. Yeah, I game on Linux. But yeah, Twitch, I definitely think does need to be called into question for the way that they go about unfairly applying their rules. Like, let me make this very clear. I have no issue with Twitch having a terms of service and enforcing the rules. My issue is they do not apply it equally. And it seems like if you have certain opinions or certain viewpoints, they let you get away with even more than you should be allowed under the Twitch terms of service. Yeah, there's a real issue with that. Now, Reddit definitely has a problem. Like, I don't know if you've paid attention to, like, the snarks. Like, there was H3 Snark. Let me make this very clear. I wouldn't really say I'm a fan of Ethan Klein. I don't really watch any of his content, but I've paid attention to some of the drama going around it. And that is a case of where Reddit really needs to be called into question about how they moderate things, because they allowed things to escalate. And they're not the only case of that happening, to be clear. That's just the most well-known one. And then I would also say Twitter is another one. Elon Musk has not reined in any of the bots. And there's a lot of bots that are out there inciting violence. And there are a lot of people that are okay with violence. And let's make this very clear. Elon Musk is not a free speech absolutist. He is for free speech that he agrees with. He has restricted and even in some cases removed people and penalized them for speech he doesn't agree with. And let me make this very clear. Twitter's always been bad. Even before Elon Musk bought them. But it feels like it's gotten even worse in different ways since he's acquired it. And it's never going to have the super app that he thinks of. It's just never going to work. It doesn't work with our culture. It doesn't. I've talked about that many times in past streams. And then Discord. Discord, I can kind of see it, but not really to the same extent of the rest of them. Discord's issue is, well, on Discord, you know, a server isn't really a proper server like my Matrix server. My Matrix server is its own server with my own rooms that we can chat in on my server. Discord servers are more like you have different channels on their servers with different rooms. So they very well could apply LLMs, machine learning, all that to analyze a lot of the things going on. But of course, there's overhead with that. Because Discord doesn't have end-to-end encryption on the text. They do on the video calls, apparently, now with this protocol they call Dave. I've talked about that in the past stream of how it works. But the problem is there are so many people using Discord at any given time, it's very hard to moderate that at scale. That they kind of have to rely on, they pretty much do have to rely on, communities self-policing themselves. Like, you go into my Discord server, which, by the way, you're more than welcome to join my Discord or Matrix server. The links are in bio if you don't see them. My mods and I pay attention to things that happen in our Discord. Now, the majority of the time, there's no issue. Everyone's talking about tech. Most of the political discussions generally revolve around tech regulations in the server. Once in a while, there is a little political discussion. But for the most part, we try to avoid politics. However, there's been some people that, you know, for some reason or another can't just agree to disagree and move on. And there's been quite a few people that have been removed from the server. No, I wouldn't say quite a few. I probably can count on one hand the amount of times we've had to actually jump in and do that. But I think we do a pretty decent job of saying, hey, you come into the server, there are rules. You know, you jump into the server, the first thing you have to do is you land on, where is it? The welcome wagon page, right? You land on this. It tells you all you need to do. There's rules. Be respectful. No inappropriate language. Minimize profanity and avoid derogatory language. No spamming. No NSFW material. No advertisements. Use the media channel for relevant content. No offensive names or profile pictures. No rating. No threats. Follow Discord community guidelines. Minimal political discussions. Keep political discussions to a minimum and be respectful. No drama. Links and images. Channel organization. Creator promotion. Collaboration. And direct messaging. And then the expansion on the rules is over here. You know, for some more details and everything like that. If you follow these, you'll be fine. You know? Like, we keep politics to an absolute minimum in there. Now, there are people that, of course, that talk about tech regulations and all that. That's, you know, you want to come in. Yeah, I've never seen that in a server. Only thing I dealt with was spam bots spamming non-stop their server. Yeah, that's happened quite a bit. And we try to have bots that can, I have a moderation bot that tries to handle some of that stuff, but in that case, we have humans, you know, taking care of that. And, I mean, if you're going to come into the server and you're going to talk about politics around tech regulation and all that, fair game. You want to talk about UK Online Safety Act? You want to talk about GDPR? You want to talk about PIPL, PIPEDA? You want to talk about the Screen Act? You want to talk about all the state laws that are going on with, you know, tech regulations, things like that? Fair game. It's tech related. And we work in cybersecurity, many of us. That is completely relevant to our field of study. That is probably the primary, correct me if I'm wrong, Vampire, that's probably the primary discussion that happens inside of our server in terms of politics. Maybe we talk about the regulations around subsidizing different companies, like we've talked about TSMC, things like that. And once in a while, you know, somebody will talk about current events, and that's why we have a current events channel. And you're more than welcome to talk about current events there. But the thing I always tell people is remember the human. And I think that's one problem that we've forgotten, whether it comes to Twitch, Reddit, Twitter, or many other platforms. People forget there's another human on the other side of the discussion there. And I think that's why political violence is getting to extremes. Because people forget that there are other people and you can agree to disagree. And I believe that almost everyone has their heart in the right place to want a better world and all of that. We may disagree on what that entails, but ultimately, people forget about that. And I think that's why we get to these extremes. Yeah, the division is definitely real. Like you said, Rise and Hope, it is definitely real, and that's one of the problems. And people... And it's kind of disgusting that people forget there's another human on these discussions. I don't care what side of politics you're on. I've seen it on the left. I've seen it on the right. You name a political view. I've seen people forget the fact that there are people disagreeing with you that aren't evil. They just have a different point of view. Maybe they're coming from a point of ignorance and they just don't see your point of view. Everyone has their own lived experience. And you can only go off the experience that you've actually had. Like, look, I'm by no means MAGA. I think that's been very clear if you look through any of my content. I've had a few friends that were MAGA, and having discussions with them, just talking with them like a human. Many of them have actually, come to see, okay, Donald Trump was actually not that good. Are you on the PC 24/7? No, I go and touch grass. I actually just came from the gym. Most of the extremist positions I hear are from propaganda rather than genuine underlying principles. Absolutely. And a lot of those people that are in the extremes are people that don't go out and get outside their echo chambers, for one, and literally don't turn off the computer. Let's put it this way. I have a view, and you can agree with me, disagree with me, whatever. You're right. I feel that political violence is escalating in part because people don't know how to turn it off. What I mean by that is, when I was growing up as a millennial, we had the internet where we could, go into chat rooms, AOL Instant Messenger, IRC, ICQ, MySpace, later on Facebook. We could have these discussions about different views and everything, and then we get off the computer. Like, let's put it this way. We used to message IM our friends, message them on MySpace, hey, where's the party at? Okay. Is so-and-so going to be there? Cool. Get off the computer, go to your friend's house. And you weren't connected to the internet all the time. So you could actually decompress and remember, hey, there's all these different people. And the problem is, because everyone's on social media, that is algorithmically driven. It is designed to keep you on the app as long as possible. So it pushes content to you that is going to make you engage. And what is one of the best ways to have people engage? People respond to things they don't agree with the most. Because if you see something you agree with, you may at most give it a like, you may watch it and move on. But if you disagree, you'll get into it. You'll argue with each other. Think about it. Facebook arguments with family. You're into those arguments, they're still pushing ads to you. You're on TikTok. They're pushing, content, getting you upset and all that. They're pushing ads to you. It's all about monetizing it. And unfortunately, negative behaviors draw a lot of people in to continuously do it. You have to look at how people are basically just using the algorithm to not really so much as connect you. I mean, that is a thing that, it does happen with social media, but that is by and large not the primary goal of most social media. It is to extract profit by your social interactions. Unless you're on platforms so far like Blue Sky, Mastodon, PixelFed, all these different things. Look at even YouTube. I'm getting videos that I notice are pulling reactions from me. And it takes a while to understand that pattern and deprogram from it. But by virtue of people always being on, drawn to negative things, you then start to have this cycle of a negative view of the world. It drives you insane. And then eventually, you start actually viewing opposing opinions in dehumanizing ways. And it happens on the left, it happens on the right. But we forgot how to turn off the app and just understand there's a human. That's where I am. Yeah, but when I hear people arguing or see that in the comments, I scroll past. Well, you're one of the few. Anyway. Hey, married to an extremist for 7 years. He was always online, lots of secrets. Yep. That'll happen. Turn off the Doom algorithm more and visited parks and friends. Yeah, there's a reason why I have TikTok on a whole separate phone. One, the Samsung does have a better camera than the iPhone. Two, when I realized I had a whole other phone, I removed TikTok off my iPhone. I now am on TikTok at most 15 to 30 minutes a day. Majority of it is just messaging my friends and looking at the funny memes and stuff that they sent me. and then posting my content, of course. I've been a lot happier because of it. My main social media I'm on is my Discord, and I'm primarily on my own Discord server and a couple other cybersecurity ones. And then I'm on Blue Sky and Mastodon. And I own my own Mastodon server. I control my algorithm. And my Blue Sky, I eventually will move to my own personal data server, but I have better control over that algorithm and that feed than I do on a lot of other social media. Speaking of, I'm going to hop off here. Got to be up at 4:30. Have a good stream. Have a good night, headphone. Jax, thank you for hanging out. Yeah, I run TikTok on PC in a container. Fair enough. I want to switch to Graphene OS so it forces me to stay off of Doom apps. I mean, you can still install Doom apps on Graphene OS. Do not kid yourself. You can still sideload them. You can still install the Play Store on Graphene OS. Don't get me wrong, Graphene OS does do a better job of containerizing it so they can't collect as much telemetry. But don't kid yourself, it's still Android. Yeah, I'm an independent left and right. Looks like a gang war between the Bloods and the Crips. Fair enough. Not on his Matrix that much. Yeah, I need to spend more time on my Matrix server. I own my Matrix server. I pay for the hosting. The problem is I'm just on so much. It's also that the Discord has way more people in there and there's way more features, but then again, I also need to focus on seeing how I can expand the Matrix capabilities. But I'm also kind of waiting to see where EU chat control is going to play out, because if the EU chat control comes into play, my server, I believe, is hosted in Sweden. I'm going to want to move that. Learning how to make a Discord server and was essentially using yours as a blueprint. LOL, I'm new to the platform. Yeah. I mean, I think I did an okay job with my Discord. It was a learning experience. This is technically my second community server I ever built. The first one no longer exists. There was some drama that happened. And there are some lessons learned around just things that came out of the drama and seeing how people really are, as well as how I want a community to run. Like, there were people in the last server that intentionally wanted drama to happen, and I didn't. I think there's enough drama between all the tech discussions and, you know, the Intel versus AMD, Linux versus Windows, and all that stuff. And all the tech regulations we have. I think that's enough drama. You know, EU chat control, UK Online Safety Act, GDPR. Well, GDPR actually agreed with that. But, you know, like, you have the Screen Act, you have COSA, you have the Beard Act, you have, was it FERPA? The anti-piracy law that they're trying to push through. You have Michigan that's trying to actually pass anti-morality, a morality law that's actually going to try to ban VPNs and adult content and anime and, you know, manga and all that. Like, seriously, it's a thing that's happening in Michigan. I don't know if you were aware of that. I don't think it's going to pass, but there are people trying to pass that. Why would you move the server from Sweden? Well, if the EU chat control actually does pass, then I would have to comply with the EU chat control, and I have encryption turned on in the server for some channels, as well as for DMing some people, and EU chat control would preempt my encryption, and there's no way I would actually allow that to be compliant with having my encrypted messages scanned. The whole point of encryption is to secure your comms. And I don't care what you say, there are legitimate purposes for cryptography around private comms. Think about, let me throw this example out there. You have a woman in a DV situation, trying to escape an abusive partner. If that partner ever finds out about their comms, that can be an issue. And there is ways to, like, intercept non-encrypted communications. Like, I remember back in the day, you actually could be able to intercept Snapchat before they even built in encryption. And all you had to do was drop a device on a network, and anyone using Snapchat on the network, you could receive all the messages coming and going just by sniffing the traffic. Oh, I got into a lot of people in trouble in high school with the things I would learn about them. But yeah, there's a lot of cases where your privacy is important, security is important. You're a journalist, for example. What if you have a whistleblower in the government that needs to reach out to you over, say, Signal or another encrypted medium? Why should the government be able to intercept that communication? Everyone has an inherent right to privacy. But yeah, I can think of plenty of reasons for privacy. Sadly, I don't have any. Oh, yeah, you do. I'm sure you want to keep your taxes and your medical information private. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you discuss that you want to keep private. I'm pretty sure there's maybe intimate moments you'd like to keep private. The way I look at privacy is when people are like, oh, well, you know, he wants to be so private, you know, we should probably check his hard drive. Do we think it's weird when somebody closes the door to the bathroom? There was Snapchat when you were in high school? Yeah, when did Snapchat come out? Snapchat release date. Oh, college. 2011. Why was I thinking high school? Oh. What was I thinking about in high school? There was something else I did that... I think... Oh, it was AOL Instant Messenger. Yeah. You could easily intercept AOL Instant Messenger, too. There was a lot of direct messaging apps that were not that secure. But yeah, let me show you. Snapchat MITM. This is actually not that complicated. It's pretty well known. Snapception. 11 years ago. Yeah, we had some fun with that in college. You literally installed this Python package, and then you could man in the middle anyone using Snapchat. And they didn't patch that for a long time. Anyway, let's see what Vampire shared next. HTTPS really took off in the last 10 years. Well, the reason why that happened was Let's Encrypt. If you're not familiar with that, let me show you. I've been using Let's Encrypt for most of my TLS SSL needs. So Let's Encrypt is free TLS certificates. And currently, they have more than 650 million websites. I've been using them since the beta days. So if you look, you're talking about the past 10 years. Well, they made it so that no one had, everyone had a right to make their website with HTTPS, aka TLS SSL, and you can literally see what happened over the past 10 years. MSN Messenger, I think it was. You might be right. Look, I'm getting so old, my memory's fading. The dementia's setting in, fam. But yeah, Let's Encrypt is actually behind a lot of different websites, free SSL TLS, and only when you get like a major project do you need to. But if you look, Chrome pays for it. I mean, Google's behind it, AWS is behind it, Mozilla, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, OVH, Cisco, Identrust, like all these companies sponsor it because they see the value in it. Like even GitHub is a thing. Akamai, Shopify, IBM, Heroku, Squarespace, SAP. Because without this, your SSL TLS certificate would be, I think it's like $200 or more a year, which is a little bit expensive for the average person. But let's check out what Vampire had in the other videos here for.
Oh, Nintendo. Nintendo. I can't believe they let them get away with this. Jack and Dexter was stealing from Nintendo all the way back in 2001.
Wait,
Nintendo,
what?
Don't you have a patent on plants with mouths? Nintendo, look, it's a plant with a mouth on it that eats things. Let's see if I can. Oh, Nintendo! I hit the A button and I went up in the air. Don't you have a patent on that? Nintendo, look, I'm exploring a world and collecting things. Sue me, Nintendo! Did you patent my mom? Did you patent popping out of a and creating new life?
I can't believe how evil Nintendo became as a company.
Money. I guess all of our mothers own Nintendo money. Now, the question is, we're the product. Do they sue us or the person who created us? That's technically summoning a creature. Yes, you're right. My mother was like a Pokeball, and when I came out, I was summoned as a little monster to do her bidding. Nintendo!
Yeah, Nintendo really did live long enough to become the villain. None of my websites are HTTPS for 3 years now. You know, if you don't have HTTPS,
I can save money now and everyone can eat. Getting money in the daytime, even count it when I sleep. Wake up, they getting bread, bitch. I do this for the streets. ADHD.
Thank you for that sub, Zero Crash. Appreciate that. But as I was saying, you know that if you don't have SSL TLS now on a website, you actually get downranked in Google and other web search engines. That's actually now a requirement for a lot of sites to actually get a better ranking. So if searchability is your thing, yeah. Oh, and let's see. You got Kernel Dump over here. So I know Kernel Dump personally. You know, we hang out at DEF CON in person, and we call each other once in a while.
News is reporting that the Secret Service has dismantled a telecom threat around the UN capable of crippling cell service in New York City. While close to 150 world leaders prepare to descend on Manhattan...
So I heard about this. It's all over Blue Sky.
...was quietly dismantling a massive hidden telecom network across the...
I did not see your comments.
The system investigators say could have crippled cell towers, jammed 911 calls, and flooded networks with chaos at the very moment the city was most vulnerable. The Secret Service discovered this massive hidden telecom network while they were helping the FBI install their own massive hidden telecom network, a system designed to cripple cell towers, jam 911 calls, and flood networks with chaos at the very moment the city was most vulnerable.
Yep. So I actually saw this all over the place. I think it was on my Blue Sky, actually. Did I actually? I think I made some posts about this. I saw some people talking about it. Did it? No. Nope. But I know it was all over... Where was it? Linux, cybersecurity topics. Because I know it's been all over the place. Yeah. This one. That was all over the place. I kept seeing this. The interesting thing about this is, while you may be like, wow, that's a lot, 100,000 SIM cards and 300 SIM servers, There's spam servers like that all the time. They just happen to catch that one. Now, I was reading somewhere on Blue Sky. Wish I had saved that post. That was talking about how it wasn't actually... it's getting blown out of proportion a little bit. In terms of, like, it's something that actually happens a little bit more, but yeah. Yeah, that sim farm. Yeah, I mean... if you see... Yeah, it was maybe in close proximity and, you know, you could do DOS and things like that. I need to find where I had that, I need to find where that discussion was actually going on. I know I saw it on Blue Sky. Let me see. Oh, here we are. I think this was actually the post I was looking at. There are no cuddly animals on sim farms, just cyber criminals destroying hundreds of thousands of Sims cards to... Yeah, they do this... But... that's not out the ordinary, they just happen to catch them. I mean, well, it is out of the ordinary, the average person isn't going to be doing that. Where was the post that I found where somebody was actually going into... I'm gonna need to look into that. I should save these posts a little bit more often. But the problem is, a lot of times I'm literally shitposting on a, when I'm on social media like this. If you know what I mean. Is it true Intel Management Engine is a backdoor that allows monitoring and control of your PC? Yes, it is a backdoor, but in terms of enterprise, it actually allows for out-of-band management. Now, I do think a lot of people are taking some liberties and, you know, blowing it out of proportion. And it is still an issue. Like, I don't agree with Intel Management Engine being on your computer, because Intel Management Engine, to simplify what it is essentially a tiny little computer running its own operating system with a web server inside your CPU. That operating system is another Unix-like operating system called Minix, which was made by Paul Tenenbaum, I think it was. Anyway, Minix is a very, very small operating system, and then they basically have a web server in there. Now, in terms of enterprise, it actually is very advantageous because you can do out-of-band management. What does that mean? Well, pretend you need to have a device that turns on so you can make sure that you do all the patching that you need to do to make sure your entire fleet of devices is in compliance. And not just patching of Windows and all of that. I'm talking about BIOS. You can update the firmware and control that a little bit better. However, Intel Management Engine is able to be exploited. A lot of people are taking some liberties with the entire story and saying, like, well, you know, it's a government-mandated backdoor. No, it's not. It's something that helps enterprise manage their fleet of computers a little bit more. Now, there is a way to disable Management Engine. It's not easy. So some vendors actually offer it out the box to be disabled. Some of the vendors that I use, Purism, System 76... Nova Custom, Tuxedo Computers, they all offer Intel Management Engine being disabled. I thought Minix was just for educational purposes. No, Minix was actually a viable operating system and has been for many years. It's just, it's a microkernel architecture. AMD's version can't be blocked. Yeah. PSP is a little bit different. There is ways to turn it off. In many cases, you can just go into the BIOS and turn off some of the security features, from my understanding. Just found out about Unix by researching Dragonfly OS on my phone. Is there a way of blocking it or hindering it? Yeah. Disable Intel Management Engine. You can do that in many ways by installing firmware like Coreboot or LibreBoot, but not all computers are going to support it. Because here's the thing. Intel Management Engine it's still required to boot your Intel CPU. Now, you can disable the Intel Management Engine. Basically, when you disable it, it turns the computer on with Management Engine on while it's booting, then disables it afterward. It's actually built into the Intel CPU. The NSA even requested that this be disabled. There's a bit that you can flip, because the NSA sees it as a security issue too. What can be done to your PC by hacking the Management Engine? Well, ring -3 access, if I recall, that's where it sits. You can, in the worst case, you could actually get access to everyone, an entire computer. So if kernel level anti-cheat is ring 0 access, and we're already complaining about that's too much access, Intel Management Engine is ring -3. It's even deeper. All my accounts are workspace accounts with parental controls and ID admin. Huh. Nice. But yeah, Minix has actually been around for a few years, at least in that case. Here I can, Intel ME. Here we go. Intel Management Engine. Alright, so design. Hold on, I'm trying to find where it specifically calls it out. Yeah, but there's a few bugs in here for remote elevation, things like that. Hold on, let's do a search here. Here we go. Starting with ME11, introduced in Skylake CPUs, it is based on the Intel Quark x86 32-bit CPU and runs the Minix 3 operating system. Like I said. So there you go. Yeah, but it would definitely bypass all encryption, because you could actually have access to the CPU at what it's running. If there's a proper enough exploit. They don't give they give the user root access, because you don't want, because there's a separation between system level and user level. You want as much possible running in user space, because user space, if things happen there, it's just in user space. It's not happening at the system level. That's why I don't like kernel level anti-cheat. It's running at the system level, and it's a vulnerability in and of itself. Oh yeah, so let's see another video that Vampire shared.
Malvad VPN adds QUIC protocols to get around firewalls
It's just called Quick.
and censorship. Find the article and read it for yourself. I will include the link in the description. It's a short read, but basically they're adding a protocol where it not only encrypts your messages, but it changes the protocol from TCP/IP to UDP and then runs it on HTTP, not HTTP.
Yeah, a lot of things have been running over Quick, but
faster, but it doesn't have the acknowledgement coming back from the website because that's how UDP works. Not necessarily a bad thing, but if it's something...
So what he's talking about is TCP versus UDP. You're probably familiar with TCP. So, TCP, basically, it initiates the connection, waits for the acknowledgement, and there's like, I think it's... I think there's like 3 or 4 steps to it. So, sends message. God, I remember I studied for this many years ago. Synac, ACK, or something like that. But anyway, TCP sends a packet, it acknowledges the packet, and then it can send the data. So it actually will check to see if that data has been sent. UDP, however, it'll send it and not care if you've received it or not. So, for example, my streaming connection, I believe that's running over UDP. It's sending the packets, and if they happen to get dropped, they get dropped. It'll just continue on. Same thing with a lot of data connections that a lot of you are using, like phones, things like that. It'll try to collect as much data as possible, but you can get loss. So, yeah.
You need to know that you have every single bit of information confirmed. Might be an issue in that regards. But otherwise, if you're like streaming, like you're visiting YouTube or you're going to a corn site, an individual packet is not going to interrupt the flow of the stream.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in general, in a nutshell, just basically make sure VPN traffic look like ordinary noise on the internet, and so it gets past like state level sensors and a lot of firewalls, and so in that regards, it's good. And we all know that there are a whole lot of countries in the world that do actively do censorship of their citizens. So this is a way for them to get out to the world and spread the word of what's going on in their particular location, especially if
I'll get
it's
into that in a
hot
little bit
subject.
why I'm doing that.
Now, on the bad side of this that it's not talking about is hackers and scammers can actually use this too, and it gets, it helps to get past firewalls. So 6 of one, half of a dozen of the other. So I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I've never been a fan of VPN, so I do have that bias.
So, why I was going like that? So here's the reality. Quick traffic is able to be easily identified. Doesn't mean that you can intercept it. I know at work, we use Zero Trust Network Access. And what we do is we block quick outright because we cannot inspect the traffic. It is not that hard to block quick connections. They have their own, signature and everything behind them that you can identify what it is. And a lot of systems... Sorry. My allergies are crazy. A lot of systems will block quick. And if you block quick, it may just fall back to a system that can be intercepted, which is what happens. That's so at work, you're connecting to Google over quick. Cool. It's going to block it, and then you're going to go over a traditional connection, and then we can intercept that and inspect the traffic because we have a certificate authority added onto your machine that allows us to man in the middle everything. And a lot of businesses do that. So it would not be hard, where he's like, you can use it to get around censorship and all. It would not be hard to block that at a national level. It wouldn't be. Now, would it be feasible? That's another question. But I could see countries like China with the Great Firewall trying to figure out how to do that at a national level. Or you have Iran that tries to get a tight grip on their people. You name an authoritarian regime, they can probably drop that on there. Now, of course, there's national infrastructure that has to be done there, and then you'd have to be able to control so many pieces of the network and everything. But these are authoritarian regimes that want to consolidate power anyway, so they're going to consolidate communications anyway as part of it. So it's not the solution people think it is. Whereas, say, using something like Snowflake to bridge a Tor connection, looking like rather regular traffic, and then connecting to Tor over that bridge is still going to be a better approach for censorship, getting over censorship, or using a traditional VPN in a more free country and disguising it as average SSL TLS traffic over port 443. No, don't get me wrong. Quick has its advantages. But with Quick, the issue is, like he said, and I was saying, it's UDP. It'll send the data regardless of whether you receive the data, and it depends heavily on your quality of connection. Whereas if you're in a poor internet connection, you can at least have it retry so many times to make sure that data has integrity. But with Quick, if you have a bad connection, it'll just be a bad connection. Don't they need to own a CA? No, you can build your own CA. I can run my pfSense firewall, build a CA in there, add that to my machines, use Squid Proxy or something like that, and start intercepting all my traffic on my firewall. It's not as hard to do as people think that it is. Yeah, you do need to have some like technical know-how and things like that, but overall, it's not as difficult as people put it out to be. Now, of course, would you want to do that? That's up to your own discretion. I haven't used anything except Proton as of now. I use Proton and Molvad. But mostly why I use a VPN inside the house isn't really to give me the advantage of doing anything more than getting around geo-blocks, as well as I have to do testing to make my connection look as if I am from somewhere else in the world to see how different things will respond. Like, if I'm coming out of India, how does the site look? How will it react? If I'm coming out of, Europe, same thing. But then also there's content I want to get around to that, is geo-blocked. So. But the browser won't trust it unless you would allow it, I believe. Yeah, you just add the certificate authority, like I said, to the system. It's not that hard. You just add it to the cert store. Mac, Windows, and Linux, it's not that difficult. Let's see. What else you got for me, Red Fang? Vampire?
Microsoft will forcibly install Copilot AI on users of desktop versions of Office 365. Find the article and read it for yourself. I will include the link in the description. Beginning in October of 20...
Yeah, I saw this a while ago, so we don't have to go through the whole video. But, yeah, Microsoft is really doubling down on the whole AI LLM thing. The reason why is they want to get their value out of their investment. And, they're even adding it to Notepad. That's ridiculous. Microsoft is actually out of genuine ideas of innovation that they're trying to do this crap. They have no new ideas to innovate or build on. The company that once brought us great things like DirectX. You may, crap on DirectX, or you may have completely forgotten how revolutionary DirectX was. But it really was a great technology. Still is, in a way. I mean, Vulkan's better, but I digress. Microsoft can't innovate anymore. That's the reality. So, they're just trying to do all these different ways to collect your data as much as possible and take advantage of the fact that everyone's just, using Windows because it's the most popular operating system, so it has compatibility with a lot of things. And then a lot of you people out there are just like, well, I don't want to, use Linux because it doesn't work with this one stupid game that requires kernel-level anti-cheat instead of understanding. Maybe there's tens of thousands of other games out there that you can play without kernel-level anti-cheat. But yeah. I'm iffy using Tor after I found out they removed OS spoofing. I mean, I guess you can do it manually if one desires through a browser extension. Haven't used an agent switcher on a browser in like 15 years. It's not as much of a big deal as people think. What? You spoof it and make it look like you're another browser? Tell me what is the real advantage of that in most cases. And it doesn't give you as much anonymity as you think it does. What, you make your computer look like you're on Windows instead of Mac, or, you know, you're on Linux and you want to look like Windows or that? I mean, it doesn't really add all that much. Let's put it this way. Do you know who one of the big backers behind the Tor project is? The Electronic Frontier Foundation. I trust the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They're pretty much the #1 advocacy group when it comes to your tech rights. So if EFF hasn't really raised hell about it, then why should you? The problem is a lot of people are focusing too much energy on the wrong things. You see it all the time. And they lean too much into, oh, this feature actually helps me, when it doesn't. That's the honest truth and sentiment when it comes to, oh, you know, Tor doesn't have this feature. You can complain about a lot of other things when it comes to Tor. It allows only for bidirectional communication, that if you have the entry and exit node, you can de-anonymize someone. That's a valid argument. But saying you don't like Tor just because they don't allow OS switching or OS spoofing, that's a non-issue. That's really a non-issue. Keep everyone looking like they're on the same thing, I guess. I'm worried about everything. Doesn't really make a difference. It really doesn't make as much of a difference as people think it does. You're on Linux, you're going to be looking like you're on Linux. You're on Mac, you're going to look like you're on Mac. You're on Windows, you're going to look like you're on Windows. No big deal. There's a lot bigger things. There's a lot bigger fish to fry. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm more of a proponent of Valid, but Valid is still not even beta quality. Well, it is kind of beta quality. It'll hopefully have a stable version later on next year, but it's still got a ways to go, and it's probably going to take like 5 to 10 years to fully mature into a viable model to compete against Tor. But even then, it's not going to be fully capable of doing what we hope it does. Should we say, completely replace Tor. And then there's I2P. I2P is a much more secure model when it comes to internet connectivity and privacy. I2P is Internet Invisibility Project. So Tor, where it runs in 3 hops, bidirectional communication, and creates different routes over them. I2P is unidirectional. So you can have it go one way and out another way. But it's also a much more complex and sophisticated system. But Tor allows you to still connect to ClearNet. Whereas I2P, you can only connect over I2P. But you can layer I2P on top of Tor. I one time got really bored and I was like, I wonder if I can run I2P on top of Tor on top of a VPN. You totally can. It'll be slow as hell, but you can do it. So I wouldn't be too worried about those kind of things. Look, I'd be more worried about, Intel Management Engine than I would about your OS spoofing. I'd be more worried about playing video games with kernel level anti-cheat than I would about, OS spoofing on a browser. It's not a big deal. Alright, what else do we got in the video section? Poppers!
What are you doing?
Poppers! Okay, Vampire knows I'm a dog person. I remember when my puppy was this cute.
What are you doing?
That's such a cute puppy. Yeah, let me call my dickheads. Yo, Barack! Ari! Barack! Arie! Come here, boys! Poppers! There we go. I hear them coming. There's dickhead number 1 and dickhead number 2. There's a trouble. There's a trouble. Hey. Yeah. Chev. Lamala. Good boy. Ari, come here. Chev. Ari, Chev. Good boy. Yeah, I know you dropped it. You dickhead, you stole his treat. Yeah, I put the points high for the dog treat because my dogs are fat ass. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. So I got some unfortunate news about Ari. He had his exam on Monday. They found a tumor on him. So I gotta bring him in a couple weeks to get a biopsy to see if it's benign or cancerous. So that'll be fun. Yeah. He's only 7. So I'm a little upset about that. Brock's just about to turn 2. So hopefully it's benign. It's like center of his chest apparently. Doesn't impair his mobility, but yeah. He's apparently at the age where they can start developing and be benign. But I have to go get a biopsy. And thankfully, I've had pet insurance his entire life. So finally gotta use that. Woo. But yeah, it looks like Ari's got a tumor. And we will see what turns out of that in the next few years. I mean, weeks. Not years, but hoping he sticks around for a few more years. I want to keep that boy. And we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Yeah. Unfortunate. Recently built a gaming PC running Arch Linux on it, and I'm so happy. Why Arch? Do you not like touching grass? Alright, so let's see this video from Brody Robinson. This is what Vampire sent me. It's the last video he wanted me to check out. And I think I'll be on stream maybe tomorrow as well. Catch up on the videos I have in my own queue to watch. So, do you recall the discussion on Fedora Linux earlier this year? Yeah, we remember that discussion. We got into it, and yeah, we'll see what they say.
You recall this discussion on Fedora Linux earlier this year. Drop 32-bit multilib support on x86-64 and stop building packages for i686.
I'm gonna move my camera
this
so
was
y'all can
Fedora
see on the
Linux
Twitch side.
entirely pulling out of 32-bit x86 support. This might not initially seem like that big of a deal, but had some pretty big implications. One of those is with a tool known as FEX. This is x86 and x86-64 emulation on ARM64 systems.
Okay.
This is really important for Asahi Linux. Asahi Linux is built off of Fedora now.
For those of you not familiar with Asahi Linux, it is the Linux that is designed to run on Apple MacBooks with the M series CPUs. So my understanding is, I think that's the distro that Linus Torvalds is using himself on a MacBook M series. So that is a problem. And my other understanding is that Steam, like to play all your video games, Steam that I have installed on my machine, the actual app is apparently, from my understanding, still 32-bit. So it may be installing 64-bit games, because a lot of those games definitely use more than 4 gigabytes of memory. But Steam itself is still 32-bit. So that could be some compatibility issues. Sorry, my allergies are just crazy.
That's not what got most of the attention. What got most of it is a little hobby known as gaming for a little application known as Steam. So, a lot of people were kind of confused about what this meant for Steam. I saw people think, oh, my older 32-bit games are no longer going to work anymore. That's not entirely correct. Steam provides a 32-bit environment for these games to run in, so that wouldn't be a problem. The actual problem is the Steam client itself. The Steam client is a 32-bit application on Linux. Not just on Linux, also over on the Windows side as well, and we'll get more to that in just a bit. So this change would have entirely broken Steam on Linux, and the suggestion at the time was run it as a Flatpak, which doesn't actually work because a lot of things within the Flatpak don't function correctly.
I can vouch for that. You ever wondered why there's 2 Steam icons? The one on the right, that's the Debian version, the Deb package. The one on the left is the Flatpak. The Flatpak version doesn't see all of my disks. It sees like 2 of the 3. But then I'm missing a whole other disk. And I want to use the space on that. So yeah, it's totally true. There's some things that don't work on it properly. And I know some of you are like, well, just use Flat Seal. I am using Flat Seal, and it still doesn't see it.
So, this change was very much disagreed with by a lot of people, notably the Bazite Linux project, and ultimately, at least at the time, didn't go through. Eventually, it is going to happen, though. Now, my
one day,
for why Steam is
like nobody uses 16-bit.
There wasn't really a drive to change it, and frankly, this...
Okay, pausing for a second. I know I'm pausing a lot on this video. So, years ago when we had 32-bit operating systems, we also had applications that were still in 16-bit. Eventually, a lot of the 16-bit support for things got dropped later on. There's actually issues now, particularly on the Windows side of things, where you'll have 16-bit installers for 32-bit applications that you can't get them to install because the 16-bit installer. So, that could be a repeat of what happens because, okay, we have a 32-bit application to install these 64-bit applications, but now we can't run the 64-bit applications because we don't have the 32-bit installer. History repeats itself.
Isn't much of a drive right now, and this may be surprising for some of you to know, but there was still a 32-bit version of Windows 10.
Yep.
And you know what? Steam still had support for it, but now that is going to be no longer, at least in a couple of months from now. Windows 32-bit OS support. As of January 1st, 2026, Steam will stop supporting systems running 32-bit versions of Windows. Windows 10 32-bit is the only 32-bit version that is currently supported by Steam and is only in use by 0.01% of systems reported through the Steam hardware survey.
Wait, there are actually Windows 10 users?
64-bit will still be supported, 32-bit? 32-bit games will still run. Now, going back...
That blows my mind, you have machines with 4 gigabytes of memory max.
That is when Windows 7, 8, and 8.1 had their support dropped. These, it was more common, still not when the time they dropped, but more common to have some 32-bit users. Most people probably don't even know there is a 32-bit version of Windows. Then when we look at macOS, that's been 64-bit for God knows how long. Now, entirely unimportant...
Alright, pausing for a sec. Again, I know I'm pausing a lot. macOS has been 64-bit for as long as I can remember, because the PowerPC CPUs, those were pure 64-bit. Now, Mac has been a pure 64-bit system. What I mean by that is everything is 64-bit in that operating system, and has been for over a decade. About a decade and a half. 2 decades, maybe. And honestly, The PowerPC, I think, was a much better package than the Intel 64-bit CPUs they switched to. I've made that complaint many times over the years. But yeah, Mac has been pure 64-bit for years. Linux has been embracing 64-bit just as long as I think. Windows took a little bit while longer to really properly embrace 64-bit because you had Windows XP, which was primarily 32-bit, when Mac was already on the 64-bit era. But Windows XP 64-bit edition was not that great. And you didn't have proper 64-bit support until, some would say Windows Vista, but I'd really argue it was a lot more commonplace with Windows 7. And that's where you started seeing 64-bit really take off. It started with the Vista era, but Vista was a whole problem in and of itself. Anyway.
Question. What the hell kind of hardware are you running 32-bit Windows 10 on? I know up until the late 2010s, there were 32-bit Atom processors being produced. Most of these,
even my Atom is 64-bit.
Chromebooks, though. Maybe there's some cheap Windows 10 laptops running this?
Embedded systems, maybe?
Maybe? Surely, like some, $150 throwaway
I can think of, like,
school
enterprise
laptop.
machines,
Besides
possibly,
that,
but...
though, I can't imagine you would take an older system
I don't know why.
and bring it all the way up to Windows 10. Maybe someone did?
I'm kind of surprised Microsoft even let Windows 10 be 32-bit.
Where they are running. Existing Steam client installations will continue to function for the near term on Windows 10 32-bit, but will no longer receive updates of any kind, including security updates. This is the same way that Windows 7, 8, and 8.1 were handled, and my understanding is there are still people running Steam on these platforms, but you've got to do a couple of workarounds to get things entirely working.
Why would you still be using Windows 7 and 8? I get that people think it was a better operating system and everything, but they're so out of date in terms of drivers, in terms of security updates. You're just opening up a whole can of worms for other issues. If you're at the point where you're with old hardware, and you're like, I like Windows 7 because it worked better, just install Linux and call it a day.
Things are slowly breaking over time as things are being changed within Steam, as the information is being handled differently, as payments are slightly changing. So there will come a point where these no longer function whatsoever, and the same thing is going to be true here. But it's not like they're going to push out an update that immediately bricks the application. It's just, hey, if it breaks, that's your problem now. Steam support will be unable to offer users technical support for issues related to the old operating systems, and Steam will be unable to guarantee continued functionality of Steam on the unsupported operating system version.
I don't think I know anyone running a 32-bit OS,
same thing that
even
was happening over here as well,
today.
And probably happened with
unless you're running it on like some device for
64-bit swap
retro
over
computing.
On macOS. To ensure continued updates and compatibility, users should update to a 64-bit version of Windows. This change is required as core features in Steam rely on system drivers and other libraries that are not supported on 32-bit versions of Windows.
That makes sense.
Future versions of Steam will run on 64-bit versions of Windows only. We strongly encourage all 32-bit Windows users to update sooner rather than later. Now again, this is just about the operating system that Steam supports. It is not about whether you can play your 32-bit games or not. Those will continue to function. Now, this is a change happening on the Windows side, and nothing here is mentioning anything about
It'll
Linux.
be a matter of time.
However, with this change, it does sort of change the equation a bit when it comes to what happens with the 32-bit libraries on Linux.
Right.
Not right now, but shifting down the line. Valve's own handheld, the Steam Deck, is obviously running a 64-bit processor and has a 64-bit distro. All major Linux distros, whether it be Ubuntu, Fedora, Arch Linux, Pop! OS, CachyOS, just take your pick, have been 64-bit either their entire life or have been 64-bit for a very long time. Now, some distros do still have 32-bit x86 support around. Debian is phasing it out, and if we look at something like Gentoo, Gen 2 supports everything. There are people that install Gen 2 on a PS2, so
Yeah.
Gen 2 is always going to be a very special case where they just do whatever they want. But for most distros out there, if they have a 32-bit variant like Arch Linux, it is its own separate project sort of managed outside the main distro. And literally every new x86 computer you buy, whether it be a desktop or a laptop, is going to be x86 64, not the 32-bit version.
Yep.
This even includes taking a Chromebook and then going and installing Windows or Linux on it. Even those which held out for a very long time with weird 32-bit Atom processors, even those, every new
Atom
system
nowadays,
today,
64-bit.
and for a couple of years
My
now,
firewall runs an Atom
has been
CPU.
a 64-bit system. And while Steam is a 32-bit application, on Linux, it only officially supports 64-bit distros. So this phasing out that was being done over on the Windows side, this was already done on Linux quite a while ago. So right now, we're in this kind of weird middle ground where all of the hardware, all of the distros are all 64-bit. And now all of the other operating systems Steam also supports, Windows and macOS, even Chrome OS at this point, are all 64-bit. So now everything around it is 64-bit, everything it supports is only 64-bit, and the Steam client is still a 32-bit application.
I think it's
Now,
like
do
the only
note the
32-bit
specific
application I
phrasing
use.
in this update, because I've seen people think this is a lot more than it actually is. Steam will stop supporting systems running 32-bit versions of Windows. Users should update to a 64-bit version of Windows. Future versions of Steam will run on 64-bit versions of Windows only. Nowhere does it state that the Steam client is becoming a 64-bit application and finally alleviating that issue. My expectation here is basically nothing is going to happen.
Yep.
So Steam is going to keep doing what it's always done. It is going to be a 32-bit application running on a 64-bit operating system because Windows does provide those 32-bit libraries to keep Steam running and likely is going to until the end of time because you can technically run 16-bit applications on Windows. They might break in some ways,
That's what
but
I'm saying.
you can technically do so. And nothing's actually gonna change here. It's just they're gonna only officially support these 64-bit operating systems, and maybe they'll introduce some more 64-bit dependencies over time that would break on a 32-bit system. But ultimately, it's still at its core gonna be a 32-bit application. Now, it's not like nothing at all will ever change, but Valve's hand kinda has to be forced. For example, with macOS 10.13 and 10.14 support. So these were the last versions of macOS which supported running 32-bit applications. And would you be surprised to know that Steam still exists over on macOS? It exists over on macOS because you don't get a say with Apple. You're either gonna do what Apple wants, or you're not gonna be on an Apple system. So over there, the problem doesn't exist. Now, it also broke 32.
I know they had the Intel CPU that had the capability, but I'm just curious. Give me a second here. PowerPC. I could have sworn PowerPC was a 64-bit. Yeah, it was a 64-bit, 32 to 64. And then Endian modes, blah, 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 Ultivac, blah, 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 blah. The first 64-bit, it appears to have seen little use because Apple didn't want to buy it because yada, 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 970, la, 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 la. Yeah, I thought they used it in... Was I mistaken? Wait, no, Power... I think it was the Power 5. Wait, no. Hold on. PowerPC. I'm gonna have to look this up. Hold on. Pull this up while I do this.
Games over there, but that's a whole separate problem. The Steam client over there doesn't have this 32-bit problem, and there are so many developers which, even though macOS is a relatively small gaming platform, they will just work around whatever they need to do. For example, games with kernel
It did have 32-bit application support, apparently. So you had the Power Mac G5. I was curious about this, so hold on. $64-bit slots, yada yada yada. Okay, hold on. Where did I see this? World's fastest, Could have sworn it was 64-bit. I'll have to look into that still.
anti-cheat. Apple just doesn't let you do that.
Yup.
But those games still work on macOS. They find ways to get the game to work over there because there is that, at least somewhat, even if small, somewhat return on investment. Even if my hopes are low, at least this is a step in the right direction.
PowerPC G5 was 64-bit.
There is absolutely nothing tying them to a 32-bit application. The only reason it's 32-bit is they don't want to change it. They still want to make it a 32-bit application. Much like on the Windows side, Linux is also in a position to drop 32-bit support for Steam, and older games will not be affected. Mostly. Minor effect. In Wine, the software that powers Proton, there is a system known as WoW64. This is used for running 32-bit games and 32-bit software on a 64-bit version of Wine, obviously on a 64-bit system. This means that older games will not be affected. Mostly. So, back in June, Arch Linux, which is the distro that SteamOS is based on, began transitioning over to a pure WoW64 build of Wine.
Okay.
And this is to slowly move away from that multi-lib dependency like we have over on Fedora. Obviously, Arch Linux also is in that same position where the Steam client itself...
I know in Pop! OS we have IA32 libs.
32-bit applications, so this can't actually be done yet. But we do have WoW64 Wine. The only problem is there are some implications with this. Some games that are built with OpenGL are going to perform a little bit slower. How much slower is really going to depend on the game. And considering they're older games, in most cases, you're probably gonna be fine. I'm sure there's gonna be some edge cases, I'm sure there's gonna be some things to iron out. WoW64 is being improved upon, but that is worth noting. More annoyingly, is what happens to the 32-bit Wine prefixes.
That's where it gets annoying, I know.
Any prefixes you have that exist before the change, this is your Wine environment, those need to be regenerated.
Yep.
And this may require backing up your game saves and backing up your mods, and it's not a big deal for a small number of titles, but when we're talking about Steam, that may be a lot of games that you have installed if you happen to be someone that plays a lot of older games. And this is likely why on Steam they're not currently using WoW64 in Proton. Whenever they push that change out, it is going to cause quite a bit of tension. It's going to cause quite a few regressions. And I'm sure they're just trying to, like, not think about the problem until they really need to. With all the 32-bit platforms that Steam could support no longer being supported as of a couple of months from now we raise the question, why is the Steam client not a 64-bit app? When is the Steam client going to become a 64-bit app? What technical reason is there to keep it as a 32-bit application?
I don't know what the technical reason is at this point in time.
Is there ever going to come a time where multi-lib can actually be left in the past? there are some distros that have actually dropped that whole multi-lib stuff, notably CentOS back in 2014. Not working in 64-bit only distribution.
I remember that.
Example, CentOS 7. This is the general tracking issue for 64-bit Steam on Linux. And people...
I want to point out, this was in 2014, to give you an idea of just how long people have been able to game on Linux. Actually, a little bit longer than that. I was gaming before Proton was a thing.
Comment on this to this day. I don't know if it's ever going to be fixed, but I hope it will be. But what do you think? Do you think there is any hope, or do you think it is all just cope? I'd love to know. So... hopefully, let me know your thoughts down below. Go subscribe to the channel if you liked the video. If you liked the video, you'll like the video. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of, I pressed the wrong button, these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe to Daily Bearer Pay, linked in the description down below. You'd think after all of this time, I would know where the buttons on my Stream Deck are. But no.
But yeah. I think Steam eventually will have to embrace 64-bit on the client side, but it's going to be a lot of issues, I think, when they do, like he was saying. I could have sworn PowerPC, though, was 64-bit, like pure 64-bit. Either way, PowerPC is still way better than the Intel CPUs back in the day. I wish they would have stuck with that. I wish Apple would never had gone to Intel and stuck with PowerPC and they wouldn't be in this boat. Because the PowerPC was just such a better CPU overall. It was a clean architecture. It had none of the flaws of x86 and the decades of crap that have been built up. In fact, did you hear that there's talks around shrinking the x86 instruction sets? I believe if I remembered, they said there's something like 15,000 instruction sets inside of Intel CPUs, and you don't need, like, all of them. So, that is a way they can possibly make Intel CPUs a little bit, or x86 in general, a little bit more efficient. Cut instruction sets. Trying to see. Oh, I guess the quest to deep-load it was, killed. Never mind. I could have remember. But anyway, yeah, thought there was a whole thing around there, but I guess Intel killed that entire idea to begin with. x86S initiative to de-bloat x86 instruction set comes to an end. That's a bummer. Oh well. But yeah. And again, sorry I got on stream so late today. There was issues, as we were talking about, with getting everything to work when we were supposed to. And then, of course, as I said, you know, tech issues, all of that. So I gotta get back on, get to work early in the morning. So we are going to call it a night. Thank you all for joining me. Make sure, if you haven't already, follow me on all my socials: Blue Sky, Mastodon, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Kick, and then, of course, make sure to join the Discord and the Matrix server if you haven't already. The links are in bio for all y'all on TikTok. Otherwise, I dropped the links down on the YouTube and the Twitch for y'all. I gotta work on the Kickbot. But Thank you all for joining. Stick around for the raid if you're over on Twitch. I'm going to probably stream again tomorrow. We'll see. Possibly maybe also Friday. But definitely Sunday, because that's the next scheduled one. We'll see. I got to make up for the Monday night stream that I missed because of the holiday that I had on Monday. But thank you all for joining. Love you all. Stay safe. And stick around for the raid.